What's up, gamers? And you know from the title and thumbnail, guys, we're going to be comparing Firefly to Miss Rappa the Rapper, okay? Now, a quick little note here I wanted to make before hopping into the video. My camera broke, so you will not have my crusty, dusty ass face in this video. That could either be a pog or, you know, that could bring your attention span down, so maybe we put stuff in the corner somewhere to bring up attention. I don't know. We'll see when I do the edit. Anyways, yeah, just want to let you guys know, heads up, camera broke, so yeah, no camera for this video. For the other videos, there will be. Anyways, guys, yeah, guys, have fun with the video. So the first thing that I want to start off here with, guys, is, like I said, a kit breakdown first. So the big thing that both of these characters do, guys, is they have like a sort of a transformation, you can say, right? Firefly uses her ult and then goes into her enhanced state, right? Whereas she's in her maxed out like Sam form, her combustion state, whereas Rappa goes into her seal form state. Now both of these forms differ, right? So the first thing here, guys, is Rappa's seal form state is actually going to be making her use enhanced basic attack. So this means she is not going to be using skill points for this, nor is she going to be getting skill points back either for this. Versus Firefly, on the other hand, which whenever she transforms, she can use her basic attack, obviously, but her main thing is using her skill in this state. Meaning she's going to be more an SP negative here, whereas Rappa is more SP neutral and kind of works like a blade, right? So I mean, that's a pretty big difference here, right? Just judging from like a skill point economy perspective, like SP neutral, SP negative, maybe both can be around the same team. Probably coping to think like that, or probably coping to put them on the same team, but this could call for maybe putting on the same team, especially if you have two SP generators on the team, or I guess if you have like enough energy regen on your Harmony MC, maybe you can get SP generation from that, and then you were in Gallagher for additional SP generation. Maybe you could put them both on the same team and they could work together just because they're both not SP negative characters. So the next thing I want to talk about here, guys, is actually super break. So Rappa is going to be giving a 60% super break value for absolutely free, basically whenever you break the enemy. It brings that weakness break efficiency into 60% super break, and with Firefly here, she's converting some of that break effect into super break efficiency, and the max you can get here is actually going to be 50% super break from her. So overall, we do have kind of like a clear winner here of like who does more super break. She does more super break than she does, so that's kind of a win on this part here. Honestly, this is kind of a win here too, just from the SP neutral standpoint. Now let's continue on through this, because we also need to talk about the instances in super break. Overall, she is doing in one attack, or I guess every turn that she is going to have, she is going to be doing at least 3 hits of super break damage on a blast type damage, right? Whereas Firefly over here does 1 instance of blast type damage for super break. So this means that you're proccing off super break more consistently or more times with Rappa than you are with this right now. Overall, if we're talking in terms of damage from the super break, I think the super break over here, even though you're proccing off 3 instances and you have 60% here, the big plus side with someone like Firefly, right, is the amount of break effect she gives herself from the skill. It's capped at 360 break effect for just using her skill, right? She's converting attack into break effect. She can cap this at 360, whereas it's going to be kind of hard to even reach that margin with someone like Rappa. Obviously, like, you're going to be wanting to hit close to 250% just to hit that margin, and you're going to be very easily hitting that with her. And then obviously this is going to cap out on top of the extra break effect you're already getting. So the one blast that she does on the target, even though it's less super break damage, even though it's 1 instance, is going to be hitting for a lot more just overall damage for that 1 hit than 1 hit of this would do, obviously, right? Because usually here you'll probably be rocking close to just 250% break effect overall. Now the big thing here is there is no cap. There is no cap to the break effect that she can technically have when doing these AoE attacks. But the big thing Firefly also does when transforming, she gives herself a lot of speed, whereas she doesn't give herself any speed. She gives herself 1 turn, right? She gives herself 1 immediate turn, which she does the same exact thing here when she transforms. So there's not really much upside or benefit to that. She gives herself break effect whenever she does this. She doesn't really have any type of like other stat scaling. Now, one thing I probably should have mentioned when talking about the transformation is kind of how their ults work, right? Because their ults do work pretty differently, whereas they both give themselves 1 immediate turn after using the ult. The big thing Rappa does is gives you 50% weakness break efficiency, so we'll just put some F here, right, for efficiency. And then she also is going to be giving a 30% buff to break effect overall for her kit. So she is giving herself a lot of break effect and efficiency for this, which actually does play a lot into the super break aspect here as well. So both of these things here are playing towards your super break damage overall, right? So this is something that is a very massive positive for Rappa. Now that being said, we can talk about what Firefly's ult does too, right? Because Firefly is going to be giving you weakness break efficiency as well. That's going to be the same 50% weakness break efficiency for Firefly 2, which is really, really nice. So same exact thing there, literally bar for bar match. But the big thing that she's doing here is, while she's giving 30% break effect, Firefly is doing something a little bit better than that with giving a 20% damage bonus to break effect damage, which is overall a better multiplier for your super break damage, because you're going to be multiplying the break damage that she's doing by 20% versus just adding on 30 extra percent break effect to the whole equation there, right? So this is going to be really good, and then this also is going to be giving 60 speed as well, so this makes sure a speed demon makes her go a lot more frequently than someone like a Rappa would go. So overall, I think the overall ult potential here is better for someone like a Firefly, just because it's giving you the same efficiency and it's giving you a 20% damage break increase. But the talents where it kind of gets sussy out, right? Because for talent, she's giving herself damage res, and then she's also giving herself F res as well. So this is not really helping as much for the damage department as someone like Rappa's talent's doing over here. And then also I should note you're getting 50% energy back as well, which means you can stay in that combustion state for longer. Whenever you get out of it, then you can get energy back super quick to get back into that ultimate state. Whereas Rappa over here, dude, it's really unique. She does a lot for her talent in terms of damage though, right? Because the big thing with Rappa's talent, guys, is that it is stackable, right? It is scalable up to 10 times. And what do these stacks do, right? So for every one stack, you're going to be increasing her weakness break damage percentage by 50% for each stack. Now, how do you get these stacks? Guys, you're going to need to break an enemy, right? Every time you break an enemy, you get 1 stack. Now, this does change with some of the talent that she gets. When you break an elite enemy, it gives you 2 stacks instead, so you can get more stacks up that way. So, but the real thing here is every time you break an enemy, you get 1 stack, which gives you 50% break damage percentage, and this is going to play into the 3rd hit of her Ningu state, whatever it's called, right? Her ninja state when she's in first person view, right? Because off rip, she's immediately getting a 60% damage, break damage percentage bonus here. And then on top of this, you'll be consuming all stacks, every single of these stacks you have. So if you have 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter. It's going to consume all of these stacks here and really stack it onto what this damage is here. So it's going to be 60% damage bonus plus stack count that you have. So you're getting a lot of extra damage from that as well. And this is going to be on the 3rd attack too. So normally the enemy should be broken by this time, and you're going to be hitting an absolutely massive bonus to the enemy, right? Because if we're talking 50 per stack, it's, let's say you even broke 3 enemies, right? That's an extra 150% weakness break damage percentage bonus. That's absolutely massive over something like what Firefly is doing, right? Now, something we have to talk about is actually how much toughness these characters can do, right? Because honestly, I have a problem here. This is the problem that I have with Rappa here, because while she does an absolute shit ton, I'm gonna put that here, shit ton of toughness damage, right? She does very little, right? She does very little toughness damage, so you really do need Ruame there to really help that out. She does give herself increased weakness break efficiency, but it's still kind of low in the grand scheme of things. It takes you longer to actually break down the enemies. You're hitting that one main target, obviously, and then you're doing blast damage to the other targets. So one main target's going to get down, whereas with her, I guess she's kind of the same way, right? But overall, she's doing more weakness break damage overall. And there's one really big factor for why this is the case too, is because, first of all, she does something really huge. She is adding a fire weakness to the enemy, guys. So this means that she is like literally just busting through that enemy shield so much faster, because she's not really having to worry about that, oh, let's take 50% less of the toughness bar, because she's actually applying a fire weakness to an enemy, which means she's cleaving through the enemies. She doesn't have that. She has something more special than that, which we'll touch on in a second here, because I do want to do an argument between fire weakness adding and then the vulnerability that she does. So that's the reason why she doesn't break through shields as fast, but when she does break through shields, I think she's going to do overall more super break damage than what Firefly is able to do. Now obviously this is in a more AoE sense, so you want to break down basically every enemy to get the maximum potential out of this. So that's why I think that she is more akin to something like a pure fiction game mode, whereas I think she's a lot better for Memory of Chaos. MOC slut right here, right? I think she's much better for MOC. I think she's much better for PF, right? So I'm going to put PF slut here. Now, I want to talk about this. Vulnerability, right? VULN vulnerability. Plus this adding weakness, right? So, I mean, this is something really big to talk about, because vulnerability is another thing that's going to be adding on to how much damage she's able to do, right? So in the grand scheme of things, in terms of damage output, I honestly think that Rappa is going to be putting out a lot more damage because of this vulnerability debuff she's putting on the enemy. This is yet another multiplier she's adding to the chains. Not only is she giving herself break effect, right? Not only is she giving herself more super break, right? Not only is she giving herself break efficiency here. Not only is she giving herself a break effect damage multiplier, right? She's also giving herself break damage vulnerability as well. So she's giving herself a lot of these stats in the multiplier here to really bust the damage out whenever the enemies are broken. So yes, while it is harder to break the weakness with her, right? Like, she's not changing the typing. She has 50% less weakness break efficiency towards those enemies that don't have an imaginary weakness, right? Whereas she's able to break them down a lot faster, and then that maybe turns into less cycles because you have to have less cycles breaking the enemy. I think is going to be a problem with her if we have enemies with more toughness bars. I think that's where you're going to run into the issue with her at. With Pure Fiction, you don't have to worry about that much because they usually have pretty small toughness meters, so you can break them really quick, get all those stacks up, and then hit the big break effect damage percentage at the very end of the combo there. So that's why I think that she is much better for Pure Fiction, whereas with her, you can kind of just get that weakness broken immediately and start that super break damage like really fast. And also with Apocalyptic Shadow and Memory of Chaos as well, some enemies are going to have more than one shield. Like if you talk about the Symphony boss, he has more than one shield, right? More people are going to be added into the game with more of a shield, right? Meaning you need to be able to break the enemy's toughness faster to make them viable for that said comp, right? Or to make them more damage viable, right? Because if you're only doing 20 versus, let's say, Firefly does 50, right? Firefly maybe has to hit that enemy 2 times, whereas Rappa's gonna have to hit that enemy 5 times to get that, right? Which is like 5 turns technically, right? Now, obviously, that's just a very, like, blown out of proportion number there, but you should understand what I'm trying to say here, right? Overall, it'll take more for Rappa to break these bigger enemy shields than it does for someone like a Firefly to do that, because she's able to put that fire weakness on the enemy and then bust them down a lot faster, versus when the enemies are broken, she's just doing a fuck ton of damage. And that makes it good for Pure Fiction. So overall, in the grand scheme of things, guys, what character do I think is better? I think it really depends on what mode you're using them in, right? Like, I think if the bosses are more toughness adjacent, I think that she's going to be worse to use than she is, right? The fact that she's able to break the enemy's toughness much faster than Rappa, in my opinion, that makes her a little bit of a better unit than Rappa for me. Now, for Pure Fiction, I think she's going to be a fiend, and I think if you fight against adds with, like, very small weakness break pools, I think she's going to be a fiend, right? Or if we get more characters in the game, they can help break that enemy shield down faster, like using Harmony MC here, breaking down those shields, right? Though we don't have anyone to change the typing, really, on a break effect team to Imaginary to really help her out with that. You having Harmony MC there as an imaginary unit really does help her out in terms of breaking down just those imaginary weak enemies, so she's able to use all of these effects here, because these effects only really come into play when the enemy is broken, right? So if you take 5 turns to get it, these effects are kind of making up for the damage loss that you would have from not being able to activate it, okay? I think overall, Firefly is the better unit, but I do think that Rappa has a lot of potential and a lot of future potential as well in terms of what could be coming out in the future for break teams, right? If we're able to break the enemies faster and get them broken down faster, I think Rappa hands down will probably be one, if not the best break unit in the game in terms of damage output goes, just because of how much she is actually giving whenever you have the enemy in a broken state, okay? If we're talking about kits, right, like the Forge set really only helps her out because it's a fire set. It bases off of fire. She changes the enemy typing to fire, so she can really only take use of that. You're kind of throwing Rappa under the rug. I think Rappa is going to be like a Jing Yuan scenario, right, where Jing Yuan really wasn't like that good at release, right, but he slowly became better and better and better with each and every patch when he got more support. I think Rappa is going to be that way as well. So overall, I think if I were to give it a boom or a doom, as the Costco guys would give it, I think Rappa is a pretty boom right now for Pure Fiction and maybe some Memory of Chaos related stuff, right? Whereas I think Firefly is a much better overall option for your account. Like I said, the problem with Break right now is you can only really win one team with Break. So if you're going to try to summon for one of these characters and decide who you want, then I think overall the better option is going to be Firefly over Rappa right now, just because of the versatility that she brings to the table of being able to apply a fire weakness to an enemy. And while she can attack every single type of enemy in terms of weakness, it's just reduced weakness, which means it takes you longer to break the enemy shield, which means that you're not getting your damage out as frequently, right? And then you got to think about this, right? Whenever the enemies regain their shield back up, are you killing them in time with her before they get their shield back up? Because if not, that's another full sin time you have to wait again before being able to do that. So that's just something I would like to notate there as well. Overall, guys, I think the better value option would be Firefly, just because she works in Apoc Shadow, Memory of Chaos, and somewhat in Pure Fiction as well, whereas I think Rappa only really works in Pure Fiction, and also she'll work decently in Memory of Chaos. I really don't see the viability there in Apoc Shadow too much. Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I know the Rappa mains will probably be up my ass about this, and my takes are going to be wrong or something like that. That's fine. I like Rappa. I'm going to be pulling a Rappa. I like her design a lot, and I think she does have a lot of future-proof ability, or I think she will be better in the future, I should say. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I've been recording for 40 minutes now, and I'm ready to end this bitch. Anyways, guys, see you later, and bye.